But last but not least, we have to take a look at our concept of parallel lines cut by a transversal. All right, so what this title actually means and is actually saying is I have a set of parallel lines. So you'll see those two lines, they run like railroad tracks. And the transversal is the line that cuts diagonally through it. Okay, so that is what is created. All right, by cutting these parallel lines with the transversal, it's creating two sets of identical intersecting lines. You're going to hear me refer to them as pods. So we have intersecting line pod 1 at the top here, and we have intersecting line pod 2 at the bottom here. And these two pods are identical. And the reason they're identical is because parallel lines are identical. So this slope of this line creates exactly the same set of lines. Because of these, we have what's called corresponding angles. Because these pods are identical, the angles are identical. Okay? So what does that mean to you? Well, we're going to do some coloring again so you can kind of see where these angles fall. All right, so first and foremost, in pod 1, I have this angle that's in this upper left-hand corner. This corner then would correspond to this top left corner of my bottom pod. Again, these are corresponding angles. In the upper right-hand corner, this angle here, so blue and orange would make supplementary, would then correspond to this in the upper right-hand corner. Again, corresponding, that means that these are equal. Okay? Now we just learned I could color this one orange as well because these are lines that are angles that are across from each other. They're vertical angles. But for the purpose of corresponding, we need each color to be different. So this bottom left-hand corner would correspond to this bottom left-hand corner. And then this bottom right-hand corner would correspond to this bottom right-hand corner. So again, corresponding angles are equal. But notice though, I'm only going to end up using two numbers the entire way through. So the reason is, if I say that this is 113, that means this vertical angle has to be 113, which means the upper left and bottom right of the other pod has to be 113 and 113. Then when I do 180 minus 113, I would discover then that the other number I'm using is 67. So that means this has to be 67, which means across from it has to be 67, which means this orange piece has to be 67, and this blue piece has to be 67. Both pods have to match exactly. Vertical angles will be equal. Supplementary angles would make 180, and all the way around, they would have to be identical. This transversal also creates two other terms. This also creates two other terms. One of the terms that's created is going to be called our interior and exterior. Okay? Our interior is the space between the parallel lines. So our interior is the space between the parallel lines. The interior is the space between the parallel lines. The exterior is the space outside of the parallel lines. Exterior is the space outside of the parallel lines. Exterior is the space on the outside. Okay? That's what's created with the parallel lines. our transversal creates two pieces as well. It creates, and you're going to see an overlap of colors here in a second, okay? We have what's called same side, and those are angles that are literally on the same side. And I have that on both sides. Please understand that. So same side would be on both sides. That means these angles line up together. Okay? We also have what's called alternating sides. And that means if I'm on the top pod on the left, that means I'm on the bottom pod of the right. I'm on the top pod on the left, bottom pod on the right, or I'm in the top pod on the right, bottom pod on the left. Those would be called alternating. Okay, so interior, exterior, same side, and alternating is what we're going to be taking a look at on the transversal, because what they end up doing is they end up putting those terms together. So I'm going to make myself a table, and you're going to do so as well. Okay, so on the top of this table, we're going to go ahead and label alternating, and on the right, we're going to write same side. And going down the side of our paper on the top, we're going to put interior. And on the bottom, we're going to write exterior. Because our concept of these words are utilized together. So in this first square, we're going to have alternating interior. In this top right square, we're going to have same side interior. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and draw our parallel lines cut by a transversal. All right, so alternating interior. All right, interior is inside, alternating is on opposite sides. So alternating interior would be this bottom corner of this top pod with this top right corner of the bottom pod. All right, they are on opposite sides of the transversal and they are inside. All right, with that, we have another pairing next door that would be also an option that we would be able to choose. So alternating interior. Right? Same side interior. So we're going to draw another parallel lines with the transversal. Again, we're still interior, so we're still inside. We have these four angles to choose from, but we need to be on the same side as the transversal. So if I pick this angle in the bottom left corner, that's going to be referring to then this same side on the inside. Or we can have this other side, and they have to be on the same side. So this would be an angle pairing that would work together. Okay. If I am working with exterior, again, we have our parallel lines. We have our transversal. So now we're working on the outside of the parallel lines. That's what exterior means. And we're in the column that says alternating. Okay, so exterior, we're to the outside. So I just picked an angle. And again, we're alternating, which means I have to be on the other side of the transversal. All right, and in doing that, again, we have this angle pairing then on the outside, opposite sides of the transversal. So that is alternating exterior. All right, so then our last one that we would be dealing with, transversal. We have our parallel lines. All right, so again, exterior, and except this time we're on the same side. So if I'm on this one, I would then match here because I have to be on the same side of the transversal, but on the outside, the exterior. All right, and that angle pairing then would match with this one. Okay, so here we have a table, interior, exterior, alternating in same side to then help us with our vocabulary. All right, so let's try this out. I have our angle numbers numbered, and it says name a pair of alternate interior. So there's two options. All right, so interior means I am working on the inside. So my choices are 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I'm on the inside. And I want alternate. That means I am working opposites of my line. All right, so that means I could have an angle pairing of 3 and 6. So I can have an angle pairing of 3 and 6. And that just simply means angles. Or we can then have an angle pairing of 4 and 5. Because again, we're working with alternate and on the inside. Okay, this next one says a pair of same side exterior. Okay, so outside exterior is 1, 2, 7, and 8. Same side is on the same side of the transversal. So in this case, I would be working with 1 and 7. So we would have 1 and 7. All right, or we would have 2 and 8. Or we would have 2 and 8. Okay, so that's a way that we can then use our vocabulary.